Hello, welcome. Hello, my convicts. Yes, it is late. It's after 10 o'clock. I'm doing this video for you guys and gals. Apologies, my next couple of weeks is going to be a bit up and down due to the fact that obviously I've got video all the time and get the drum. Obviously, most people know. Salute to them. Obviously, know the situation. So today we're going to do a video. I did do it before, but I wanted to redo it again. And this is actually for a message given by our good convict, Arthur Corian, who asked regarding what settings I actually use when it comes to the Nvidia filters. Now, I did do this before, but I wanted to kind of do it again. I felt like it was a little bit not as good what I can normally do. So here we go. Let's go at it once again. So here we go. So if you go down to the bottom here, if you're on Nvidia, you'll have one of these called Nvidia Settings. You click on it and bring up the Nvidia control panel. That'll bring up this, which I was going to do the screen. And I'll just blank you. I'll put you here. I want you about here so that I'm not going to be blocking, but you can still see obviously what I'm doing here. So what I'm going to actually do is I'm going to talk you through what I would normally ask, because Arthur asked if I could actually show what settings I actually use when I'm actually using the Nvidia filter or Nvidia settings, and what I would use obviously for gaming or what I would use in general. I do apologize, this video has taken a few weeks to what obviously Arthur asked me to do this, so apologies. I do tend to forget at times. You have to shout at me sometimes and remind me. I will forget if I do miss anything out. So feel free to shout back in comments and go, "Oi, you got this video?" And I'll go, "Oh yeah, let me do that video." So yeah, this is for you, Arthur. Hopefully it's good. So we're gonna do two things. Number one, the first thing I'm gonna do is just tell you exactly the ones I normally change. However, I kind of wanted to read through each and every one of them because I don't generally touch this that often, to be honest, at all. Because this I've never felt actually does anything different to your gaming experience or FPS or anything like that. I think a lot of these people who do these videos that say change this, change that, change the other, and it gives you ultimate FPS and stuff, things like that. I don't agree with it. I don't agree with it at all. However, I've never properly tested this and had a look around and seen if it actually makes a difference. So why the hell not? Let's do that today. So first of all, I'm going to just tell you what I actually change. So starting off at the very top here. So the very, very top, I use the advanced 3D settings is the only thing I normally set on here. And I leave this alone as it is. I'll just leave it as it is. So I'm just going to apply this quickly. Right, so this I normally leave as default. Now I have reset everything back to defaults, which you can do up here. If you have any problems, just restore the defaults as it shows up here, and then just click apply when it comes up at the bottom. So number one is I always have it on advanced 3D settings, and then obviously you can click this take me there, but you can just click underneath. I leave this on quality as it is. And just move down to the next one, which is where we come to. So I'm going to show you the exact ones that I change, and then the second part I'm going to read through, and I'm actually going to change some and experiment with some stuff. So follow along if you want to. If not, then just follow along with what I normally do, and then good to go. So the first thing I normally change on here is low latency mode. I generally have this on as ultra. Okay, so that's the first one. The max frame rate, not that one. It's the monitor technology underneath. So monitor technology, I normally have this on fixed refresh rate. So far we've turned low latency mode onto ultra. Monitor technology we've put to fixed refresh rate. Okay, so moving further down. Power management, I normally set this to maximum performance. Preferred refresh rate for the EX2710, highest available. So I've picked my monitor and said highest available. And VSync, I normally turn this off, even though it does come back on anyway. That one, I would probably just leave it as application set. The first one, use 3D application setting, because that just means the application itself. If you turn off VSync in the application, it'll turn it off. Because generally this one comes back on no matter what. And then I just normally click apply. You'll see the screen flicker off for a little bit, and it'll come back on. And that's it. That's all I normally generally touch in terms of this. So once again, just repeat exactly what I've changed. I've turned the low latency mode onto ultra. I've turned the monitor technology onto fixed refresh rate. I've then turned power management onto maximum performance. Preferred refresh rate for my monitor, which is this one. This is the EX2710. I put it onto the highest available. And vertical sync I've turned off. And that's all I physically do and use my monitor for. In terms of going further down, this I don't normally touch. I normally turn G-Sync off and make sure that all these settings are turned off, so I'm not using G-Sync at all. And generally, if I'm touching anything else, it's regarding the color. I just generally touch the adjust video color settings. I changed them to Nvidia. I changed this to full, so you've got full color. I don't do anything with the color or gamma. I just do the dynamic range. I also make sure I change the dynamic range on monitors as well to match, so they're also 0 to 255 as well, rather than the limited 16 to 235. This is so that it gives you the darkest blacks and the whitest of whites. So as it says here, dynamic range allows to select between those, preserving black detail and white peaks based on the type of content being viewed. As you can see, 0 to 255 setting may allow more detail in the dark and white areas of some content. And that's the reason why. So I generally put that on there. That's all I normally change on there. This one, I have sometimes put it under Nvidia setting, but I don't generally move any of these sliders, so it's kind of pointless me doing that. So I just mainly do that one, and that's it. That's all I do in terms of these. The only other thing I have ever done is when you go here to the display settings, where are they? This one. I normally put this one, which is the EL2870U, because it's actually a 4K monitor. This is an actual proper 4K monitor, or whatever you call it, monitor. 3840 by 2160. And it does run at 60 Hertz, but it is 4K. But if I put it on 4K, my left monitor becomes huge. And then the monitor on the right, which is going to be the EX2710, is going to be very, very tiny. And then I don't like that. Excuse me. Trying not to cough. Don't know why I've got a tickly throat, but there we go. But yeah, that's all I generally change on there, and that's it. So if that's all you wanted to see, then there you go. That's all I generally change on there. However, if you want to stick around for the next part, then feel free. If not, salute you and have a good day. So what we're going to do right now, we're actually going to do something I've not done before, and that is actually change a few things around and see if it actually makes a difference at all. Does it actually help? Does it not? So without further ado, follow along if you want to follow along. If you don't, then you could just watch if you want. So yeah, here we go. So starting with the top one, I'm going to change my use preference. I'm going to actually put it down to performance, and I'm going to apply that. Then what I'm going to do is put yes, but I'm going to go back to use my advanced 3D setting. Once I click this, it'll actually gray out the area, but it will stay under performance instead. Because obviously trying to get as much performance from your system, or what people perceive you get as much performance from your system, is by obviously always aiming for performance over like the higher quality sort of thing. So we're going to have a look and see if that actually makes a difference. So let's go down to the 3D settings here. What I'm going to do, I'm going to read through each one, and we're going to decide whether or not we think it's a good idea or a bad idea, to whether or not it should be on or it should be off. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything you think you would change after this, and maybe I'll make that change in the future. So without further ado, here we go. So image sharpening. So you can change the sharpening and you can ignore film grain on here. It says that this feature increases the level of sharpness, details, or clarity of your application. Turning image sharpening on to increase the sharpness of your application. Use sharpen to adjust the level of sharpness. Use ignore film grain to reduce over sharpening in applications that use film grain. So in terms of this, it's not really giving me any sort of like benefit from me turning this off, turning it on at all. So I'm gonna leave that as off at the moment because it's not really gonna give me a benefit. It just says that you can adjust obviously the sharpening levels and reduce film grain of any applications that have film grain. Call of Duty has film grain. I don't know if that would make a difference on there. Doesn't really say it gives me a unbenefit. I'll turn it on. I'm going to put film grain to 0. I'll put this down to about 0.10 because I don't really want it to sharpen too much. We'll try it on. We'll try it on. I kind of feel like we should try it. It's an experiment. That's what we're doing here. So might as well obviously experiment. So ambient occlusion. So this gives realism to scenes by reducing the intensity of ambient light on surfaces blocked by surrounding objects. It increases depth perception but by providing shadow effects for objects based on their placement in the scene. It's not supported for application. Refer to program settings to view application support. Nvidia's screen ambient occlusion algorithm is not compatible with DX12 games. So if you mainly playing DX12 games, this might not work, but I'm going to experiment because it says at the bottom, it says quality provides more pronounced increased realism. You may experience a decrease in graphics performance. So performance increases realism with less impact on graphics performance. So I would say performance because it's supposed to give more performance and it's not going to take too much away from like the graphic part of it from what it's saying. So this one, what I'm going to actually do, I'm going to miss out the description. I'm just going to go based on the scenarios and we'll choose from the scenarios rather than reading the whole thing. Otherwise, I'm probably going to be here all night. Right, so this one, the image is less blurred at high settings. However, you may experience a decrease in performance. So we don't want a decrease in performance. If the application has its own anisotropic filtering controls, it is recommended to use the application controlled settings. So I think based on that, we'll leave it as an application controlled because that's what it's saying, that it would be better off leaving it if it has already got that in there. And generally games like Call of Duty and that do have that already in. So this one, if you turn on, it will improve image quality with lesser performance impact than other anti-aliasing settings. If you turn off, you'll notice artifacts are dithering around the edges of objects, particularly around text. Okay, so on you get improve image quality with a lesser performance impact than other anti-aliasing. If you turn it off, you might notice dithering around the edges of objects, particularly around text. So based on that, I'm going to try it on. So gamma correction. Select on to improve the quality and color of 3D images. And it doesn't say that there's any benefit from that, so we'll leave that on. Anti-aliasing mode. If you want to control the anti-aliasing settings within the program, use the application control setting. Enhancing the application can provide high quality and greater reliability for applications with built-in anti-aliasing support. You may set any anti-aliasing level within the application for this mode to work with the Nvidia control anti-aliasing settings. Or you can use override if the application does not have built-in settings, or if the application does not support anti-aliasing when HDR is enabled. So this will give better support. It says if you want to control the anti-aliasing setting within the program, So based on that, I probably would say leave it as application controlled, because it just seems like having this to override and it's got to be anti-aliasing supported as well for this to particularly work. Anti-aliasing transparency, because your one's grayed out. Multi-sampling provides superior performance. Super sampling provides superior quality. So we're all about that performance. So let's try multi-sampling for the performance. Background application max frame rate. Set the maximum that your GPU can render 3D application running in background. User runs a game, switches to a different app from time, not closing the game, and wants to reduce power consumption or fan noise by capping frame rate. That one, I don't generally think that makes much difference. Excuse me, I don't know what's up my throat. I don't really think that makes much of a difference, to be honest. I'm going to leave that as off. Make sure that's definitely what it says on there, isn't it? Yep. Okay, next one. Select a GPU. Or prevent a GPU. I've only got one, so I'm just going to leave it as all. DSR factors. So this uses dynamic super resolution. So you can improve the quality anti-aliasing that will not have in-game anti-aliasing settings, or for games where in-game anti-aliasing is sufficient. Enjoy better quality for older games. Based on that, it's not really going to make a big difference. But just say improve the quality of anti-aliasing games that do not have in-game anti-aliasing settings, or for games where in-game anti-aliasing is sufficient. And you've got these different ones here. You can do like different scalings and stuff. I'm going to leave that off. Low latency mode. So I've never actually read this one. I've just generally based on this one. But it says here that have it off, turn it off to prioritize render throughput by allowing games to queue frames, which we kind of don't want that to do that. We want it to be as low a queue as possible. Select on to prioritize latency by limiting queues frames to 1. Or select ultra to prioritize latency by fully minimizing queued frames. In addition, this mode minimizes VSync latency when both VSync and G-Sync are enabled. So based on this, I would probably still say ultra, because it's going to minimize it by the most it can. It's going to prioritize latency by fully minimizing queue frames. Excuse my throat. My voice is going. Right, so this setting often enabled when users are trying to conserve power, limit frame rate slightly below refresh rate of G-Sync display. This one I have used before, but I have capped it to 120 because I know my monitor or my 0s and 1% are generally okay around about 120. But for now, I'm just going to leave it as off at the moment. Because like it says here, it's just to conserve power or limit the frame rate slightly. Monitor technology. So this one synchronizes monitor refresh rate to GPU render rate, best for demanding games with highly variable FPS. Or you've got ULMB, uses black light pulsing at fixed refresh rate to minimize blur for best games with consistently high FPS. Or fixed refresh rate, which is traditional fixed refresh rate monitor technology. So this synchronizes monitor refresh rate to GPU's render rate, best for demanding games with highly variable FPS. I kind of want to leave that on G-Sync then. I don't have the other one. I only have fixed or the G-Sync compatible version. And it doesn't give me a negative for having G-Sync compatible, so I'm going to leave that as it is. Multi-frame sampled AA. So this one doesn't actually say that there's any scenarios for it. Just says that it works by reprogramming coverage sample locations across pixels within the same frame, as well as cross frames. This has the effect of making the overall sample pattern irregular, which eliminates anti-aliasing artifacts. So, based on that, it doesn't really say that there's a plus or a negative to it. So I'm going to try it on and see what happens. So next one, open GDI compatibility. So if you set this to auto for the driver recommended behavior, prefer performance to optimize OpenGL windows for performance, reduce power usage, compatibility with GDI rendering may be reduced for some applications, or set to prefer compatible to maximize compatibility with applications that mix GDI and OpenGL rendering. So I will probably leave this on auto and let it choose for itself, because there's no benefit from either one as such, and auto will automatically do that for you. So OpenGL rendering GPU. Choosing the more powerful GPU to render application, rendering different applications on different GPUs. Now I've only got one, so I'm going to leave that as auto select as well. So now come to the power management. So this one says, prefer consistent performance, maintains the GPU at a constant performance state when 3D applications are running. It is often used to provide reproducible results during SW development and tuning. Nvidia control, driver control mode allows the Nvidia graphics card to automatically determine the best setting for performance and image quality when using features such as Mosaic, STI, Quadrosync, and G-Sync. The GPU will likely run in maximum power mode at all times to provide the correct image experience for those features. Adapters allow the graphics driver to automatically determine the proper performance state based on GPU usage. This mode helps save power when 3D applications do not demand the card's maximum capabilities. Or you can prefer maximum performance, which will maintain the card at maximum performance state when 3D applications are running regardless of GPU usage, which can increase power consumption. So for this one, I kind of want to go more for possibly adaptive. If I've got that. I've only got that or that. So we'll put it as maximum performance if we haven't got adaptive. If you've got adaptive, I'd try adaptive, because adaptive seems pretty cool. That it does it for you, and it'll choose obviously based on your graphics card. So this one just says set to the highest, override a game in refresh rate, supported by a monitor. So obviously that one I would say highest available. Shader cache. Shader compilation for applications can be skipped as the result of the compile can be found in cache. This will reduce stuttering and startup time of application. Now this one I've never really touched as such. What I'm assuming is it does is that it chooses how many megabytes that it allows to store caches of shaders. So obviously the more you allow it to store shaders, the more space it's going to take up on your memory or on your drive. And obviously they might have different versions of shaders, like from 2010, 2009 possibly, and maybe if you have it lower, it overrides that information with the new one when the new one comes out. I don't know. I'm going to leave mine at driver default for that one. So texture filtering and anisotropic. So if you select on, you get high performance with minimal loss in image quality, or you can turn off if you see shimmering objects. So I'm going to turn it on, seeing as it's supposed to give you performance. High performance with minimal quality loss. So this one says set. This is the texture filtering negative load bias. So set to allow for high performance, or clamp is enabled for better image quality. So I'm going to leave it as allow. Texture filtering quality. Texture filtering quality allows you to set the overall performance for how your graphics card will render content. Selecting high quality will turn off all the texture filtering options in order to provide the highest visual quality. We'll turn off all the texture filtering optimization in order to provide the highest quality. So the description says this setting will allow you to simply decide if you prefer performance, quality, or balance between the two. Nvidia control panel will make an appropriate texture filtering adjustment based on your preference. I'm going to try it on high performance. So now we've got true near optimization. So if you turn this on, you get performance with minimal quality loss, or off for best. I'm going to leave it on. Threaded optimization. Most newer applications should benefit from auto or on settings. This should be turned off for older application. Just going to leave it as auto. Triple buffering. Turning on this setting improves performance when vertical sync is also turned on. Now I don't like vertical sync because vertical sync causes latency. Or it's being said to be causes latency. So I'm just going to leave that as off. So vertical sync, if you turn it off, it allows the GPU to render unconstrained by refresh rate. Will scan out from multiple rendered frames in a single refresh interval. Causes screen artifacts like tearing, but has very low latency and high performance, which is what you want. If you turn it on, it limits the GPU render rate to the maximum refresh rate of your display and avoids tearing. However, can have longer latency and lower performance due to render rate limits. Also, it can stutter if GPU render rate falls below the refresh rate. Then you've got the fast, which renders unconstrained, similar to VSync off, but it does not tear since frames in excess of the refresh rate of the monitor are dropped. Drives latency that is very close to VSync off with no tearing. Then adaptive limits the GPU render rate similar to VSync on. However, if render rate drops below the refresh rate, will allow tearing. Good compromise between latency and visual clarity. And then you've got the last one, which is adaptive, limits the GPU render rate to half the max of the refresh of the monitor. Can reduce stutter for games with low FPS. So that one I would probably say try adaptive, because it limits the GPU render rate similar to VSync. However, if the render rate drops below the refresh rate, allow tearing. Good compromise between latency and visual clarity. Actually, I probably would put it on fast. Similar to VSync off, but doesn't allow tearing. Or just have it off, turned off. So I've only got off, on, or fast. This is, I'm always kind of and now with this one. I'm going to turn it off. I think it would be better off. I've never had a good time with the VSync, so I'm going to leave that off. Now, these ones probably won't apply to anybody because you might not have VR, but I do have a VR. If you don't know, if you're quite new or new here, I do have a Quest 2. Hopefully soon to be a Quest 3, but we'll see about that in the future. So this one, you can increase this value, may improve performance at the cost of increased latency. This setting does not apply to SLI. So this one, I would probably say either number one or use the 3D application setting. I'm going to leave it as the 3D application setting. Let the game decide. Next one is super sampling. So select adaptive to apply super sampling central region of the frame, which is basically going to be the center where your eyes are. Where there is no GPU, hold on. To apply super sampling central region of the frame only when there is no GPU headroom available. Size of central region varies based on the amount of GPU headroom available. Select always on to apply super sampling to the fixed central region of the frame. This does not consider GPU headroom availability and might result in frame drops. It's a tap. Or you can turn it off, disable the feature. This is the default option. I kind of think I would leave that off because it might improve performance, but it's increasing latency. And as we all know what latency is obviously reaction time. So having more performance over latency, I don't think it's worth it. So I'm going to leave that off. And last but not least, Vulkan OpenGL. And this one, you put auto for the driver recommended behavior, or you can put preferred layer on the XGI swap chain, has improved compatibility with Vulkan timeline semaphores and VK KHR display style swap chains, or prefer native to minimize memory overhead. I would probably just leave that as auto because I don't know any of that, what it means. And minimizing memory overhead might not be a good thing. I would have expected you would have wanted some overhead just in case there's any problem. So I'm going to leave that as auto. And there we go. So I'm going to click apply. I may make my screen flicker on and off, so bear with me. No? Don't want to do it? Okay. Right, so there we go. Just make sure everything has changed that should have changed. Looks like so. Is there anything else really I need to set up? Don't think so. I'm gonna leave it as it is. I think. Let me just make sure that these haven't changed. Not that one. This one. They're still the same, aren't they? Yep. Okay. So there we go. So I'm gonna go down slowly. If you want to copy these again, if you didn't get a chance to see what we did, I'll move this down slowly. So here we go. Just pause it. And follow along. Back up again. And there we go. That's it. So hopefully you enjoyed. If you did, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. If you want to check out these and see what they're like, I will run some tests. I will be doing some gaming tonight as well. So I will use these settings and see how we go on and see how that goes. So I'll let you know if it actually makes a difference or not and see how it goes. I'll check out one of my previous games I've done, maybe a multiplayer on Call of Duty, and then see if the frames are different in this one to that one. and we'll give it a test and have a rush and see what happens. So there we go. Hopefully that helps you out. So either follow the first steps I did, which is the usual, or the experiment of the trial that I'm going to try out today. See if it actually does make a difference, because it should now give me max performance on everything, and I should be getting better performance from my games. But will it work? Will it not? Let's find out. Anyway, hopefully enjoyed. Don't forget to like, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Also, maybe even consider joining, like our elites already, like Raf GT Sport. Salute to you, Raf, and all my other members who joined for just $1.99. That get access to emotes, badges. That'll get access to giveaways. My game, when it's coming out, I'm making a game at the moment, a third-person shooter or first-person shooter. I haven't quite decided yet, but we're working on it very slowly. But that'll be coming out in next year or so. I may bring out some trials for people to play and what have you when we get to that point. The moment of I'm taking my time with it. I'm learning some stuff, taking my time with it, and enjoying the process of getting it through. I am someone who loves to strive for perfection, so that's there with me on that one. But if you want to be part of the alpha stage or beta stages when it gets there, then definitely be a join member, because it will only be exclusive to members who have joined. Also, I want to do charity work for dementia and autism, and that is another way I'm going to be using the funds from the $1.99 in order to help support charities, as well as I do have autism within my family, as well as dementia within the family. So if you want to help support that, by all means, feel free to do so. It is I, the Convict, signing out. As always, I salute you, my convicts and convicts, and I salute you, my elites. Keep on being amazing, awesome, cool, and all that good stuff. Appreciate your help, your support. Thank you very much for continuing to support, and hopefully we could do some great things in the future, and hopefully we can get some of those giveaways started for you, my elites. Thank you. Appreciate you a lot. And yeah, everyone, bye for now.